and to the attention paid to the work we do and for your support, and allow myself to take off the mask. I'm vaccinated and revaccinated, and I even had the special PCR test done, so none of you have any doubts on the safety of what's happening. But that's just a bit of technical intro. What I'd like to say is that we are in operation for 33 years. I could have presented a long list of all of the things we've done over this time, but what for? How can I briefly, for instance, explain to you how much work has been put into putting together a database of political repression victims, that now we have more than 3.5 million names, and how many years and how many people were involved, and how can I briefly tell you about the specific cases of people, thousands of people that the Memorial Society has protected, where every case is outrageous and every fate is unique. I cannot tell you of that right now, but I would like to say that the Memorial Society is a place of knowledge. It's a place of competence. We've been working for many years, honestly and openly. We work in Moscow and in the regions, and I'm happy that among our participants I have my colleague from Perm. It's one of the important centers of the work we do. So here we are, and you can just ask us. You can ask us, and I will tell you about the work we do. That's the first thing. The second thing it just has to do with resources and money. Over the many years of our operation, we were supported by all sorts of people and institutions. I would also very much like to name them all and thank them all, but I do not have the opportunity here. And that's why I'd like to say that to me and for all of us, it's very important. We're not working on anyone's order. We're no one's agents. It's quite the other way around. It is us that shape, invent our project. What book we want to publish, what we want to do, and then we convince people, institutions, to support us. It's quite the other way around. It's those who support us in the end become our supporters. It's just I don't want to use this word, the word that they're trying to impose on us. We can speak for ourselves. We are no one's agents, and those who support us and those who share our approach, our values, our goals, those are the people that feel for us. And sometimes they become just as much memorial members as us. Thirdly, claims. If you look at the claims against us, they're of administrative and technical character. It's one violation, typical violation that, well, actually, there was an opportunity not to fine us for that. You could have said, "Oh, you're doing wrong here." But ideally, ideal situation would have the law to have a clear list of all of the things that organization has to do or a person has to do. The law should provide an exhaustive list. So it's one typical violation that at first we're punished for on a number of occasions, and we pay all the fines, and we deal with the issue. And now we're getting back to this issue again, and they're trying to come up with the same claims again. And I think, and I think many people will agree with me, you cannot take an organization that explains our history, our past. You cannot take an organization that protects specific people for many years. You cannot just shut it down. for technical reasons. It's just not a good thing to do. It's not fair, and it's not a way to do things. Thank you so much. And our next speaker cannot join us in person, but we are very grateful to her for finding the time. She wanted to take part in a press conference. It's Human Rights Commissioner with the European Council, Dunja Mijatovic, and she's on a trip to Poland and Belarus border, so she found a few minutes to speak in front of you and talk about what happens to memorial societies and how the European Council sees it. Dunja, the screen, please.
Thank you, Tanya. Can you hear me? Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Доброе утро, все меня слышат?
Dear Tanya, dear friends,
Дорогие друзья,
I'm really glad to have this to address you to this. The important and significant of
к сожалению, нет слышимости, невозможно перевести.
can some help with can you hear me?
Кто на связи с выступающей по телефону, чтобы сказать ей, что ее не слышно? Ну, очень прошу прощения за технические
We apologize for the technical difficulties.
Can you hear me now?
Можно передать это Дуне Миякович? Скажите, пожалуйста, мы можем другую выступающую?
So we can
Или нет? Добрый, через 5 минут. Еще раз просим прощения за доставленные неудобства.
Can you hear me?
We apologize again for the technical issues we are facing. On the legal aspects of this situation, we're going to hear Tatiana Glushkova, member of the Memorial Council and senior lawyer of the program Human Rights Defense using international mechanisms. First of all, I would like to join my voice in the list of those to be thanked for coming here, for those who are not indifferent to our fate. Speaking of the legal aspects of this issue, as the press release has already stated, and as my colleagues have already stated, the Prosecutor General's office has filed a lawsuit against International Memorial, and Moscow City Prosecutor's office has filed on the very same day a lawsuit to shut up the Human Rights Society Memorial. With the only difference between the two lawsuits, that the Prosecutor General's office requires International Memorial to be shut for failing on several occasions to mark its publications with the label of a foreign agent, and one occasion when the Prosecutor office came to a book fair and confiscated books published since 2016 and never distributed. These books did not have the label foreign agent attached to them. According to Prosecutor General's office, we're dealing with a systematic violation of the law on foreign agents. A systematic violation means that an organization fails to change its behavior, but we did label all our publications, all our books after we were included in the register of foreign agents. We were provided with such labels stating that our organization is included in this register. Our websites and all our products we distribute do bear this label. But this label is written in such a way that it is impossible to comply with it, because no one can understand what things are to be provided with such labels. When we start a press conference, for example, we do state that both organizations are included in this register. Are we required to put this information on our badges too? This is unclear. So until 2019, both organizations never encountered such requirements. In 2019, we suddenly learned that we are required to provide such information on all our badges, for example. So you never know what you are expected to do to comply with this law. Shutting down an organization for an allegedly systematic violation of this law is absurd. The Human Rights Center Memorial is facing additional charges, stating that this organization allegedly rejects court rulings and
in fact, it's recognizing the fact that the entity being persecuted on an unfair basis or for acts it did not commit, and it's the motives of persecutions are of political character, or the persecution is in violation of the right for a fair trial, and its refusal to follow the court ruling. So this sort of understanding of is also absurd, because non-adhering to the court ruling is could, at the time of arrest or imprisonment, it's when the person escapes, or when someone is fined and the fine is not paid. So that's refusing to follow a court ruling. Discussion of whether, personal discussion of whether a certain court ruling fair or not, or legit, is of course cannot be considered non-adherence to the court ruling. And as part of this accusation, the prosecutor's office speaks of the fact that since some of the people that are entered into the registry of the political prisons are charged with terrorism, and that would imply that that Memorial actually takes part in extremist or terrorist organization. Of course, that is not so, because a human rights organization, Memorial, never justified such actions, and the only goal of entering a person into the list of political prisons is assessment of how fair their criminal persecution was. More so, in every document on the political prisoners, there is an information contained that the Memorial Society does not share that does not mean that the Memorial Center shares the political views of the prisoner. One of the most absurd points on both lawsuits is a clause that has to do with the fact that the organization the organization violates a whole list of international treaties. So that speaks of the fact that the person who wrote this lawsuit is either has no legal education or knows very little about the state law documents. That doesn't know that adhering, so it's only the state that can follow or not follow international treaties. A private entity or an organization generally cannot violate any of these treaties. Nonetheless, such an accusation is also made against Memorial. So that's perhaps the key points I'd like to make on the absurdity of the lawsuits. The only thing I could say additionally is that, I have this pin, Memorial pin. It's issued in 1989. It's made in 1989. I was 2 years old back then, and now I'm a part of the council with the Memorial Society. So Memorial Society is an organization that has achieved such has achieved such results that the people that are as old as our organization can be part of its board of directors. So the very idea that of destroying these organizations and the values, most importantly, that these organizations stand for is even more absurd than all of the legal issues that I just spoke of. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much, Tatiana. Dear colleagues, we'll try to overcome our technical difficulties and get Dunya Mijatovic online. I'm very hopeful it will be successful this time.
Okay. Good morning. Let me try again. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Доброе утро.
Меня слышно?
Can you hear me? Dear Tanya, dear friends, I'm really glad to have the opportunity to address you this morning at this very important conference, but also to be in the company of so many great people, panelists at this conference today. The importance of the memorial and the significance, great importance, and I think that this significance is also quite immense. The memorial has fought for freedom, dignity, and for the truth for victims of the Soviet era repressions. And it continues to address today's most challenging human rights issues, including, of course, selective criminal justice, civic freedoms, or impunity in the North Caucasus. Regrettably, I have to say that we gather today for a very disturbing reason, and we already heard from several colleagues that spoke before. This opening of the liquidation proceedings against memorial groups is something that concerns us all. Memorial has always been at the forefront of the fight for human rights in Russia and beyond, paying an immensely high price for its beliefs and stance. And I think, we cannot talk about memorial if we do not pause in order to remember Natalia Estemirova, and if we do not recognize the struggle and everything that several people had to go through because the work they were doing when it comes to defending. And here, of course, I'm thinking of our great friend here. Memorial has also been one of my office long-standing partner, providing an invaluable contribution to my work and the work of my predecessors, but also other Council of Europe institutions. Dissolving Memorial's group would have significant negative consequences, not only for these groups, but also for civil society as a whole and for human rights protection in the country. Many victims of injustice and human rights violations would be left without defense, including, and this is something that needs to be recognized, before the European Court of Human Rights. Memorial's work to preserve historical truth would be fundamentally jeopardized, with a negative impact on the education, on the awareness of the younger generations about crimes and human rights violations in the past. It is also worrying to see that the Russian authorities have intensified harassment of independent civil society and also in general using this so-called foreign agents law to an unprecedented level. If not stopped, This could lead to dismantling of civil society and human rights activism. And it is not that I'm trying to send some spectacular news here. I think this is simply the truth. And this is something that we all have to recognize, the threat. My predecessors and I have been consistently speaking about this law since its adoption nearly 10 years ago. You know about many statements of Nils Muizhnieks, but also myself. I'm not going to list all because I know that you are very much aware of it. Other Council of Europe institutions have also assessed the Russian law on foreign agents, including the Venice Commission, different opinions, INGO conference, and also several monitoring bodies. And as you know, recently, Secretary General of the Council of Europe also issued a statement expressing concern about the liquidation process of international memorial and foreign agents law on which it is based. So the conclusions of my office and other entities are, very clear. This law stigmatizes NGOs, media, and individuals. It restricts freedom of expression, and it has a chilling effect and even a repressive impact on civil society. It contravenes international and European human rights standards, and it should therefore be repealed. Simple as that. It is very regrettable that the Russian authorities have so far disregarded the persistent and repeated calls from Council of Europe and others to amend the relevant legislation and stop harassing human rights defenders. Worse than that, they have gradually expanded its scope over the years in 2019, in 2020, restricting the space for independent and critical voices even further. As a member of the Council of Europe, Russia is bound by its human rights standards, including when it comes to creating a safe and enabling environment for the work of human rights defenders. It is high time for the authorities to engage in genuine cooperation and bring its legislation in practice in line with human rights standards. So I intend to continue working on this. I intend to address the Russian authorities and in particular the General Prosecutor's office to convey my observations on these matters. And I will again urge them to discontinue the liquidation proceedings of memorial groups and repeal the foreign agents law as a matter of priority. I do hope I'll also have chance to meet many of you in Moscow and elsewhere, and I can assure you that I will continue working on this and all other issues that are affecting human rights defenders, activists, journalists working in Russia. Once again, I wish you a wonderful and fruitful conference with some strong messages that I hope will be heard, and many greetings from Warsaw.
Thank you so much, Dunya. For the journalists present, if not everyone understands English, I'd like to remind you that everything is recorded on YouTube with simultaneous translations, so you'll be able to listen separately in Russian. The whole statement by Ms. Miyatovich. I will give an overview of it briefly in Russian. Dunya spoke of the role of memorial for the memorial's role in the civil society, about the work done in education by memorial, about the protection of people from violation of human rights, including the European courts on human rights, memorial's work in Chechnya, and work that was done by Natalia Estemirova, and Dunya also emphasized how unprecedented the attack on the civil society that's taking place in Russia now, in particular with the use of the foreign agent legislation, and without mentioning the numerous statements that she and other institutes with the Council leaders made regarding this law. She emphasizes that also her office, commissioners on the human rights and other structures within the Council of Europe came to the conclusion that the legislation stigmatizes. It has a cooling effect on the civil society, and this law has to be forfeited. And that's what the European Council is negotiating with the Russian authorities. And it's very sad that instead of adhering to their obligations and canceling this law, the Russian authorities making it more severe over the past 2 years. And Dunya will address General Prosecutor's Office of the Russian Federation on the issue. With issues related to Memorial Society, and she very much hopes to see you all in Moscow, and of course in Strasbourg at the Council of Europe. So we have one more speaker, one more remote speaker. It's a special reporter with the UN on human rights, Mary Laurel, and it seems like we were able to handle our technical issues.
Hello, can you hear me now? Good morning, everyone. Can you hear? Good morning, everyone. Can you hear? Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to speak here, though I wish it was under different circumstances. I am with you today to express my solidarity with, respect for, and admiration of colleagues in Human Rights Centre Memorial and International Memorial. I am acutely aware of the years of abuse you have endured for your efforts to truthfully remember the past and to pay tribute to the memory of those who suffered by speaking up about and expressing human rights violations, exposing human rights violations in the present. You are doing so in the service of Russia and your fellow citizens, and for this you are slandered as foreign agents and glorifiers of terrorism, though nothing could be further from the truth. You are presented as enemies of the state for suggesting that Russian citizens are deserving of the same rights and freedoms as people elsewhere. Rights and freedoms contained in international treaties that the Russian government has willingly chosen to sign and ratify. In preparation for this press conference, I was reviewing official letters sent by the Human Rights Defender Mandate to the Russian government concerning the memorials, and I was struck by the sheer resilience of the organization and over the past 30 years. One of the earliest cases on the UN database raised by the mandate relates to a memorial member who was subjected to torture. More recent cases have included your foreign agent designation, numerous fines under the foreign agents law that followed, office searches, smear campaigns on state-controlled TV, and the criminalization of the head of your Chechen-based office. I hope the authorities do not go as far as dissolution, as this would show flagrant disregard for UN values and would be an outright rejection of the Secretary General's recent call to action on human rights. I also fear that if the memorials are targeted and dismantled, it will only be a matter of time before the remaining civil society actors in Russia are targeted. But even if sheer resilience that she displayed. Sometimes I just can't even feel whether my life is in danger because I have such strong other feelings. I do have worries about my family and people close to me, but I still feel I have to do this work. And that quote is up on a memorial to human rights defenders who've been murdered in a memorial in Dublin. Finally, I am reminded by the words of Nobel Peace Prize winner Liu Xiaobo, who experienced a similar fate in China, but cautioned against justifiable rage, for it would pit him against his fellow citizens. He wrote, "Hatred can rot away at a person's intelligence and conscience. Enemy mentality will poison the spirit of a nation, incite cruel mortal studies, destroy a society's tolerance and humanity, and hinder a nation's progress towards freedom and
have made separate statements on the situation related to memorial organizations, and these statements can be seen both in English and in Russian on the respective sites of the Council, European Council, and the UN. I'd like to thank you for your speech. So our next speaker,
Голина, член правления Пермского мемориала и бывший уполномоченный по правам
member of the board and a former commissioner for human rights in Perm region. Tatiana Ivanovna, please take the floor. Hello, dear colleagues. I'd like to bring up a few theses on the current situation with memorial societies in Moscow and Russia. First of all, I'd like to say that when I've finished my activity working in the state, I joined Memorial, so I haven't been with Memorials for that long, though I've been partnering with Memorial for the past 20 years. But now, being within the organization, our regional organization is made up of 2,000 members. 5% of this organization are the survivors of the political repressions. Over 90% of our organization are family members of political repression victims. And it's very important that this organization unites very talented and very professional historians, journalists, pedagogians. So on the very first day I've learned about this lawsuit, right away I would start getting phone calls from family members, from political repression victim family members. I cannot express the outrageous surprise that I've heard in these phone calls. And there's one line that I've heard from my grandmothers, from the grandchild of a repression victim. It became a signal that really affected me personally over these past days. So we need to be. What do we need to be? Twice repressed. First, our loved ones were repressed, our grandfathers and fathers, and now we are repressed for our constitutional right to unite as family members of political repression victims. To unite as an organization, and it's a constitutional right of citizens to unite by their interests and positions. So that I think is very serious risks that I hope will be taken into consideration during the court hearing. And the second risk, well, it's not even a risk; it's more of a resonance, and it emerged at the panel discussion at ECO of Moscow and Perm by our civil experts, well-known Igor Verkin, who said that that it's a signal for those who oppose the recognition of political repressions in the history of our country, and that's just that's in a way a denial of the many years of work that was done together with the authorities, especially over the especially lately when there was this state policy on political repression memory. So this divides the society. So, and some people think that it is a signal that yes, that now that you can deny this dramatic page of our history. And I also would like to say that that in my opinion that this lawsuit absolutely does not consider the status of memorial as an international organization. So there is this as an NGO as an idea within the system of human rights protection. So a memorial case is an example of how the states should not act in violation of all possible documents that were ratified by our country when it comes to NGOs, international NGOs, especially such as the International Memorial Society, because it has the highest status with the UN, consultative status. It's the highest status of interaction with the UN, and the very procedure of creation of such organization speaks of the fact that even though I very hope that such ruling will not be made, even if the international memorial court decision, our local court decision, will cease to exist, actually, the international memorial will continue to exist because for the further functioning of such organization, a national registry by the state is provided, at least in one state, and the international memorial, for what I understand, is officially registered not only in Moscow and in Russia, but also in a number of other European countries. So liquidating international organization, if there is such an objective, is practically impossible. Nonetheless, the risks that I spoke of before, of course, they are worth special attention, if we could put it this way. And finally, the last thing I'd like to say, ever since this campaign on adherence of this so-called foreign agent law, we keep hearing this idea that we're incriminated that the organization conducts political activities because it affects public opinion. So just very strange why the General Prosecutor's Office does not consider the changing key legislation of the chief legislation of the Russian Federation. In 2020, our constitution, there was an amendment made, Amendment 114E, that not only gives civil institutions the rights and NGOs to take part in influencing the state. It gives us a decree, so to say. It describes the responsibility of the government to create conditions for the NGOs to take part in governance. So before, the Constitution only gave this right to the citizen of taking part in governance. And now it's a right that is given to all NGOs. So now this paragraph that's been traveling from one document to another, from one organization to the other, it actually, in essence, it has no legal power. Unfortunately, that is also not considered, and allow me to repeat myself here once again, just as generally any work, any human rights work, or any work on the protection of political rights is interpreted by many officials as political activity. And to me, I think that seems to be one of the key issues that, among other things, allow to consider the human rights organization activity as a political activity. And of course, since I'm representing a region, I can say that we've discussed some risks and there's some anxiety, including among memorial members, those who consider themselves memorial professionals. Of course, we're all very concerned, and we're all are very much looking forward to the court ruling, whether it will become a signal for the regional institutions to be also entered into the same list. So there is a concern, just as generally there is a concern that the very topic of repression victim memory can be shut down by somebody. Though, in my opinion, the normative grounds and the practice of execution of the state policy on political repression victims' memory cannot be shut down by definition, because locally in the regions this interaction is quite energetic, I would say. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tatiana Ivanovna. Actually, yes, it's very important that this press conference in Moscow is attended by representatives of regional memorials. Memorial is not only Moscow, it's not only the capital, it's the whole country. And it's not only Russia, exactly. And of course, the threats the International Memorial is facing now, the Human Rights Memorial Center, the same threats are relevant for regional memorial organizations, something we need to remember for sure. And I'd like to pass the floor to Alexander Cherkasov, Chairman of the Council of Memorial Human Rights Center. Hello. So things seem to be quite serious here and sad. When we received these wonderful documents, perhaps our first feelings were surprise, anger, and laughter, because just reading of the prosecutor's documents couldn't cause anything else but that. Tanya has provided detailed analysis of why International Memorial cannot be shut down, or the Human Rights Center cannot be shut down for formal violations of this so-called foreign agent law. So, okay, so it's like placing a red star. We did put it in the wrong place. Oh, sorry, we didn't saw it on all of our possible places. So, similar questions as to the Human Rights Center. So it's like they did that. So we corrected the violation with the Ministry of Justice, but so it's not an intended violation that organization is violated for. If it can be alleviated, the organization is not shut down for that. There were some claims to the charter of introduced corrections to the charter. So Tatiana Sergeyevna had made a good analogy. It's like executing for crossing the street in the wrong place. Well, yeah. You shouldn't cross the street where you can't, but it's not an adequate measure, sanction. And then there are some questions, some specific questions to the Human Rights Center, some questions to the list, to our list of political prisoners that we have since 2008, and they've been expressed more than once. The prosecutor's ruling that was presented on April 30th, 2013, actually accused us of the very thing, that we should be cited as agents because we have a list of political prisoners. It's a very nice date. It was a very nice cause. It would be worse if they picked on us for some mistake in the charter, because it was 45 years of the current events chronicles. We're talking about Soviet dissidents writing about political prisoners. But now the claims against the political prisoners list are somewhat different. It turns out that it contains signs of justifying of terrorism, justification of terrorism and extremism. From the formal standpoint, that our documents on political prisons are not, in fact, a justification of terrorism and extremism, that these convicts are accused of. For instance, Jehovah's Witnesses are considered to be extremists. Tanya Glushkova has already spoke of that. Other than the formalities, there are some details here that I would like to share with you, and allow us to just think together, to laugh together, and get angry together, because this accusation of traits of justification of terrorism and expertise is based on expertise that was conducted by the Center of Social and Cultural Expertise. It's a very famous institution. They've made expertise on Bussyrite cases. They've made expertise on Dmitriev's case. On Jehovah's Witnesses, they've conducted expertise. So at the Nova Gazeta, you will read about Discernet. They're known for being able to read attentively. So I think it will be a nice article with a lot of detail. Andrei Zayakin will write about it. Has prepared a publication. So I'd like to just speak of one thing now. The Center for the Social Cultural Expertise, it was the use of all sort of big words that we actually affect the consciousness of the people or whatever, that we're doing something wrong by recognizing Jehovah's Witnesses as extremists. For some reasons, they've included as part of their as addendum to their expertise. They included text that contains data from their expertise on Jehovah's Witness. What were their grounds in explaining that the witnesses are bad? It's actually that they're a threat to territorial integrity of Russia because they believe in the end of the world. Because the end of the world means destabilizations and the borders will be violated, and they justify genocide because they believe in Sodom and Gomorrah, and that means that they're justifying genocide. So now the same institution writes about us, and based on that, the prosecutor's office has made a ruling on justification of terrorism and extremism, and they want to shut us down. And let us pay attention to the date of the documents. It's early December of 2020. So at that time, they tried to do checks with us, but they weren't able to do anything. But the only thing they had left to do is some papers that now included along with a lawsuit to the Moscow City Court. But allow me, I mean, if a year ago the prosecutors found such horrible, unforgivable crimes before God crowned and general peace, why didn't they just run and stop this horrible violation then and just put it away for a year? Well, because there's no violation there. It's all complete rubbish. They know it themselves. And now, perhaps when they're getting kicked from above that we need to shut down Memorial urgently, they started panically looking, what do we have? And they included this paper again. So it's not only the letter, but it's also the numbers. It's not only paragraphs, but also the dates confirm the fact that the claims against us are miserly, and it's only the will of the state that's been expressed in this law on foreign agents for about 10 years to control everything that's not controlled, to make NGOs controlled by the government, and if they're not controlled by the government, to make sure that they're liquidated. So we laugh. So we will fight for our rights. But this cannot help but bring a smile. So do smile, dear friends. Thank you so much, Alexander Vladimirovich. Unfortunately, Miss Ulitska is stuck in a traffic jam and most likely will not make it to us. But even if she doesn't make it here, we have no doubts of her support of us. So we have we have a good deal of time for Q&A. So please feel free to raise your hands, ask your questions. So if you speak Russian, use the microphone. It's a black microphone. If you speak English, use the green mic. Oh, it's the other way around. Okay. So it's Russian green, English black. Memorial staff, please do wave your mics. And here we go. We have our first question.
Thank you very much. This is a question we keep being asked. And first, there is a law which regulates such cases too. The law on non-government organizations, which, among other things, regulates the liquidation of non-government organizations. And then there are two possibilities. If we remain within the legal field, or at least pseudo-legal field, then we will keep to this law. On the one hand, the law gives us the possibility to appeal with international memorial. It's a very short way because the status of our organization as international memorial, the international status means that the case is immediately brought to the Supreme Court, and the only appeal instance is the Presidium of the Supreme Court. With the Human Rights Center Memorial, this way is a bit longer. What we are going to do is to defend our stand and reasoning it. The great support we've received. Look at the composition of today's conference. It's not a coincidence. We really wanted to show you, on the one hand, that our work is an international one. It is more, it is broader than just Russia. And we've always been saying that human rights don't have any borders. Our memory, our past don't have any borders either. What happened, what was happening in our country affects us all wherever we live. So there is a very wide range of possibility, from the highest ranking international officials down to our highly respected colleagues in the regions. The number of persons who wanted to attend this conference was very big. So what we are going to do is to protect our legal rights, and we hope for justice. Second, if we remain within the legal field, okay, there will be a lawsuit, there will be a liquidation procedure, which is outlined in the laws and the legislation, and we'll have time for appeal, and Tatiana has spoken about it. Memorial is a horizontal structure. This is how we were making it, how we were creating it. Maybe we didn't do it quite well. Some time ago, 34 years ago, we went out to the streets to collect signatures for a publicly accessible archive to be created. If you had asked me then how to do it, I couldn't have answered you. I only had ideas for one step forward. And now we are collecting signatures. Now we're getting running for support. And as soon as we find out that someone else wants this as much as we do, for the state, for example, we'll see. This was a typically Soviet attitude. I want something good to happen, but the state is there. Some big people up there above are there, and they will take the necessary steps. This was my vision. What can we do? What can we do ourselves? And the way we've gone during the 34 years of work has led us to where we are today. It is not only a place of knowledge, not only a place of memory. We have a huge collection of evidence. We managed to do a lot, although far from everything we wanted to do. So one of the chief results achieved in these 34 years of work is a very broad horizontal structures comprising quite a few people who do not have any money, who are not entered in any registers, who are outside of all this. They have continued and will continue to work together with Memorial. So I appeal to all our friends, to all who are not indifferent about this story. You can help us. You ask us how you can help us, and I say, share with us our memorial work. Look at your own families. Do you know what happened in your own family? Do you know? Have you ever checked the family names of your family members with our database? If you have any documents, have you scanned them? Have you sent them to us? Did you participate in building this database? Have you contributed to its growing up to 11 million names from the 3.5 million today? 11 million names should be there according to the law on rehabilitation of political reprisal victims. So the answer to the question whether we have achieved a lot is no, we didn't achieve much. From the 11 million, out of the 11 million, we have only collected 3.5 million names. So where are those who could help us? Yes, we need them. The work will go on. But whether we will be taking part in this work, I don't know. Yesterday, a very good friend of mine from Omsk has found 47 relatives of her in our database. She is also a very good friend of Memorial. Yes, you've raised your hand first. My name is Vlad Smirnov, Echo Moskvy. 2015, if I'm not mistaken, a lawsuit has been filed already against Memorial. What is the difference between that lawsuit and the present one? And why do you think during all of this press conference you did not mention the name of Putin a single time? Do you think this issue will be considered at the highest level, at the presidential level in Russia? Thank you. I will answer again. This was a lawsuit filed against Russian Memorial. This lawsuit had to do with the Minister of Justice claim that our structure ran against Russian laws. And the lawsuit to shut up Memorial was filed immediately, and we were able to protect our stand in court. And all the charges, all the requirements that we were facing were considered and implemented. So the structure of Russian Memorial was changed, and it is an organization which keeps existing until today. It is not part of International Memorial, and it is not in the register of foreign agents. As to the president's name, I couldn't say anything. Maybe one of the colleagues could. I am here as a representative of Memorial in Perm, but I'm also a member of the Human Rights Council. I didn't mention this because I wasn't. I have to tell that there was a statement issued by the Human Rights Council, and they are preparing for a meeting with the president in which they are going to address this issue as well. Thank you. Hello, Dmitry Labanov, RTVI. I wanted to ask if you can say what Memorial is living on. What funds does it have per annum? And my second question is, theoretically, is Memorial prepared to switch from European grants to Russian grants, presidential grants, for example? Well, you know, those are different directions of work, and there are two different organizations. Speaking of money, it's big money for about 100 million rubles per year. Sometimes it was more, sometimes it was less, and most of the time those were funds coming from abroad. Why? Russian money would have been good. We would like to live on donations from Russians, but there are some obstacles to this. People, private persons, easily donate for things they understand well. Like 150 years ago, they donated for the Red Cross. They donate for those detained and arrested today. They donate for refugee children. Our colleagues have been donated money for such cases. For an ongoing work or for infrastructure, which is very expensive, you basically don't get any donations. There were times when Mikhail Khodorkovsky donated for our organizations, and then something happened, and our donators ceased funding us. Dynastia Foundation was recognized as a foreign agent because its founder, Dimin, transferred his funds from one of his accounts to another, and such measures do not contribute to the willingness of rich benefactors to donate money for us. You can get money from the government for humanitarian activities, but for our work as Human Rights Center in hotspots in Caucasus, for civil control in anti-terrorist organization zones, you can hardly get money from the government. This would involve conflict of interest. So Human Rights Watch never gets money from any governments because they work worldwide. Foreign money is not bad. It's actually, it means independence of non-government organizations from their governments. You're not, in fact, you've been infected with this. Even write the word agent without quotation marks. Foreign money is not bad in itself. I would like to remind you that there is a special resolution of the UN General Assembly from 2015 on the protection of human rights protectors, contains an item on funding of international non-government organizations, and it stipulates that it should not be considered as a reason for discreditation on the part of governments. National or foreign funding is not a reason for discrimination, but this is disregarded when the law on foreign agents, for example, was passed. Allow me to add that this is a topic that we keep discussing, and this topic has many subtopics to it. We discussed many times the question of money being bad or good only depending on the context. If it doesn't depend on where a person lives who donates. The money is good or bad depending on whether the conditions are transparent or not transparent. We sometimes decided to reject donations, very good donations, but we rejected them because the conditions were not quite clear. So we would hate to be in a situation when you get funding under unclear conditions, and sometimes you find out that who pays calls the tune. We would hate to be in this situation. That's why we sometimes reject donations. Second, there are projects, there are themes for which, as a result of our discussion, we decided to ask no donations for. We ask only private persons to donate, not institutions. I remember I called some very wealthy people and said, I know you are going to donate. Please do not donate more than 50,000 rubles. We want this money to be collected little by little from many persons, from many private persons, because this is the way we collected money for the Book of Memory of Katyn. It was only financed by Russian money, by private donations, and only small donations. So if you open this book, the memory books for Katyn, for Medne, you'll see that their final pages contain long lists of donators, and I'm very proud of these pages. I'm no less proud of them than of the work we have invested in these projects. And I would like to underline that while sharing totally the opinions that my colleague have uttered, it is a myth that we live on foreign money. This is not true. We do have Russian donators. While having many problems, many people in Russia face problems when they want to support our work, because the richer a person is, the more resourceful a person is, the more difficult it is for him or her to make a donation for us. The higher is the risk this person would run. Nevertheless, there are Russians who support our work with their donations. Sometimes they donate 100 rubles, sometimes 100,000 rubles, or even more. There are such people. So we do not live on foreign money. We live on different money from different persons. The only thing which I always add from myself, from personal, I live in Russia. I want to live here. I love people here. I'm not even sure what inspires me more, whether it's the work we do, which is so good for people, that we are fortunate to do this work, or am I so proud of the people that are next to me who sometimes are even better than I, who do their job better than I do. But when we are speaking of money, I must say that if people outside Russia, apparently in countries which are far away, not in Kazakhstan, which shares our history, not from Ukraine, from Poland, for example, from the Czech Republic, from Germany, from Australia. If people from there donate money, they're being ready to share our pain, our suffering, our history. They deserve more respect from me than Russian citizens, because these issues immediately concern Russian citizens, while those people are just good people. Speaking of money, maybe Tanya Glushkova could answer Interfac's question about the total sum of fines Memorial has paid. How much money have you paid in fines? Do you remember? I remember for both memorials is about 6,100,000 rubles. I believe 4.5 million have been paid by International Memorial, and the rest by the Human Rights Center. I may be not quite precise as to the exact sums. Yes, and I forgot. In each case, which Prosecutor General considers to be a violation, there were separate documents for the organization and for its chair. So in sum, there are 14 occasions we've been fined for, and for each occasion we were charged separately. So we have 28 fines to pay. And another 1.5 million for fines earlier than 2019, and quite recently we have been charged another fine, which we are now appealing against in court. So please pass the microphone over there. You wanted to ask a question too?
I'll ask two questions. First, Gulag Museum supported published publication in support of Memorial, and it disappeared mysteriously. We weren't able to get explanations from the Gulag Museum where it went. They just said that they will not make any comments, because maybe you have some information on what happened at the Gulag Museum. And the second question, more topic related, it has to Ovid and Info as a similar organization. What will happen to how they will conduct their activity just due to possible liquidation of the Memorial Society and ceased financing? The second question, the same question were asked by Scott Meady. Regarding the first question, okay, we will not make any comments. We're grateful for them for making the publication and to assess everything else. We're not a komsomol here to make any moral judgments here. Thank you for being empathic, but then different people have different circumstances. And the second thing, well, perhaps Info will also attempt to work, continue their work. But how? Allow me to quote one film. I cannot discuss the details of the operation without permission from the command. So let's Info answer the question themselves. Hello, Paul Trisa, Austrian TV, ORF. Allow me to ask more of a global question here. So these lawsuits on Memorial Society liquidation, what do they say of the situation in the country, where the country is going? Maybe Tanya will take that. So let's start with the regions, right? Tanya, just use the mic so we can hear better. Well, of course, yes, it is a global question. It was well noted. So my regional work on human rights speaks of the fact that during various years, and I was a representative for 13 years, so the law enforcement would act differently over the years, and claims against some civil institutions. They came in waves. They would rise and would fall. So it didn't happen on its own. And so, like we say, we have different terminology regarding this story of interaction with law enforcement. It was called an outrage, arbitrary decisions. But when there was a founded position, when there was public influence, and when the state institutions got involved, including civil state institutions such as Human Rights Council and human rights state representatives, but to speak of the declining, things worked out on the way for the decline. So at the moment, if we were to speak of the wave, the current wave, yes, we're observing that there's a certain rise in this wave. And in my opinion, that's just my personal opinion, I think that the current opportunities in Russia for public attention, at the very least, or influence as maximum, that is just ascribed to us at the moment. I think that's the only thing that can salvage the situation. Alexander Cherkasov will add to that. It was the first question by the Czech journalist here. Karel Čapek, a Czech writer, he was great with aphorisms. February prophet. We need to get ready for winter. What does it mean? For the 10th year running, we have the foreign agent legislation that was written in order to get the control of the civil society and destroy whatever is not whatever they're not able to control. And we see more and more confirmations of the fact. The legislation on foreign agent, just like as other laws, were written after the election of 11/12. Change of governance. So we had another change of settings, and perhaps these current settings presume there is no room for us. So they're trying to destroy us. That's what it means. Will they be successful? I don't know. But I don't know. Since the foreign agent law was passed, some people said that we would exist for a few months at most. And we've been around for 10 years now. Thank you. We're still around for 10 years. Hello, Evgeny Albatsov with the New Times. So tell me, all of these humanitarian things are quite interesting, but I'd like to understand, how do you plan to protect yourselves? What's your plan for defense? Who will represent you, the Moscow City Court, and what is your general defense line that you're planning to construct? Because at the Moscow Court, you'll be accused of justifying terrorism and extremism. That's on the 23rd of November. On the 25th of November, we have our general prosecutors with us. And I say us because it has to do with all of us, obviously. So once again, who will be representing you? What arguments do you think will be presented? Because we understand it's a court hearing, and we don't have a jury. So the best speech that can be presented will not be heard. So we'd like to understand the system of your defense system and the structure of your arguments in court. I can just speak of some general things, and Tanya will go into detail. First of all, you can see that even though there are two lawsuits, naturally we'll have a common defense. It's a singular team that works in two directions. And of course, the foundation of this team is Memorial Legals. And by the way, we've received a lot of from all sorts of lawyers. We received proposals of free help and consultations, and that's something that we use. But we have a team that we put together that's founded by Memorial lawyers, and a number of lawyers that collaborate with us and have collaborated with us for years. But to head this work, we'll have Henry Resnick. Henry Resnick will be heading the team, but specific defense on the directions and the details that will emerge. So we'll have people from the team dealing with that. So regarding the legal arguments, because in this the important part of the issue has to do with actually what are the arguments, what are the arguments you present. That's something that Tatiana will speak better of. Henry Resnick, pardon me. Henry Resnick will be both at the Moscow City Court or the Supreme Court. No, okay. Here I'd like to make a clarification. On the 23rd of November, at the Moscow City Court, we'll have a preliminary hearing, and it's a closed hearing. No one will be allowed to attend. It's kind of a legal. It's a normal legal procedure where then parties meet. Okay, so we have a lawsuit. Did you read it? Yes, so that's an addendum to it. Those are the deadlines that you have to reply by. So that's kind of discussion. I would ask a different question. Why don't they do the same thing to the International Memorial? Because with the International Memorial, they'll have a direct hearing on the 25th right away. So that's I think we find it correct to say to speak of a general team, of a common team, to speak of maybe he just like enlightens us with his knowledge and his fame and his courage. Henry Resnick will be doing that, and I'd like to emphasize he was one of he used to defend us at the other court hearing when there was a lawsuit on liquidation of Memorial, and we won. And how will things unfold at the Moscow City Court? We'll see when we'll have our date appointed. Resnick, is Resnick working for pro bono? Yes, of course. Okay, now regarding the legal arguments, the first thing I'd like to say that, of course, we cannot, at the moment, speak of all of our legal arguments for one simple reason. We would like to at least have some of them be a surprise. That will be voiced during the hearing and not now at the press conference, because the hearing is a legal process, and it's not good to voice your position beforehand. Regarding the arguments that I may speak of right at the moment, I already spoke of them all in my presentation, but allow me to give you a quick overview. Okay, there are no international documents, including the UN resolution, nor it's not. Nor the European Council position, nor the position of our Supreme Court do not allow for a situation when we speak of the violations that Memorial is accused of, that can be alleviated, that are not of global characters, and that do not affect the essence of the organization performance. So no, there are no international or local norms that would allow to use such a strict measure as organization liquidation. That's our first argument. It's quite obvious. The second argument that has to do with international, with the Human Rights Center. This has to do with accusations of support of terrorism and extremism, of course, and that has to do with the law on. There are no laws in the judicial system that forbid criticism of court rulings, because in a situation when some public criticism of court ruling is equated to non-adherence to these rulings, that would just close any opportunity for public dialogue on court decisions being fair or not, or any discussion on what justice or legislation should be like. So, in the text that were published by the International Memorial, there were no support of extremism or terrorism. We have never shown any solidarity with the views of any of the people that we consider to be political prisoners, and we're talking about all sorts of worldviews among our political prisoners registry. And there was also a question regarding the lawyers. Yes, we do have a team of lawyers, a wonderful team, and Genry Markovich Reznik, working for International Memorial. We'll also be present in the Moscow State Court by Ilya Novikov. He was Ayub Titiev's lawyer. Ayub Titiev is free now, so we also have a good legal team. But it's important to know that it's a common team. It's a singular team. On the Nemzner with the Dost channel, I understand that the question doesn't make too much sense because Yelena Borisovna needs to understand what field we're in, whether it's legal, pseudo-legal, or just arbitrary. But I'd like to ask about the archive. What will happen with the archive, with the liquidation? Is there any opportunity to protect the archive? What's been digitized? What do you have in a material form? Yeah, this question is quite clear. It's a matter of concern for everyone, and I'd like to maybe bring peace to all. Memorial collections were put together, and they keep being put together. And even now, this very minute, people continue to support us in such a way by giving passing their archives to us. It's something that's done by Moscow organizations, but of course, and it was always a common task for us, and it was a huge, long project when we realized that these collections require proper storage, not only professionals, but proper facilities and the opportunity to expand the work done. At that point, International Memorial has launched a major project on creating a facility for storage. And once this facility was created, and it's a separate bit of drama there. Given what's happening now, it may not seem interesting, but having found the money for 4 years, I've met with all sorts of realtors and lawyers, and I would tell them, please, we're a charity. I'm not going to give you any kickbacks, or I'm not going to send anything to offshore accounts. We want to buy a facility for a real price, and we want to buy it honestly. And it was a long process, and it's not that easy in this country to execute such a simple task with having the money in the pocket. So once Memorial was able to find the resources, the facility, and managed to adapt it, at that point, Moscow organizations passed to the International Memorial for storage, passed their collections. And on one hand, they've reserved the right of control and inventorization, regular checkups, but gave the International Memorial the right to use, process, and create results, create products. Because the results of the recent years that you see, I think, and I'm very hopeful, by the way, and I'm very grateful to you all as well for your journalists, as you tell about the situations, always presented the way we would want to see, through the prism of our work, not through the prism of the scandal, but through the prism of the work we do. It's apparent that when you speak of it this way, you can see the change in quality. Once we have the opportunity to work with the collections properly. So the situation is difficult right now. It's dangerous, and it's no accident. The question is hanging in there. So the International Memorial makes a decision to inform the Moscow organizations that they will not be able in the future to stick to our duties on responsible storage. And with a similar act, with a full inventory, these collections will be passed back, and the Moscow organizations have a whole separate task to look for resources. So, in the very worst case, I apologize, we will start everything from scratch. We'll find the money once again. We'll find the facility once again. We'll adapt it to our needs once again, and we'll place our collections there once again. So based on the support that we've felt from the people, perhaps now it will truly be a place that's created at the expense of 100 rubles from sent by millions of people.
We're discussing now things that are very specific, very down to earth, and it's quite normal and understandable, but in fact, we're witnessing a huge story taking place right now and here, and I would like to ask you maybe to stop for a moment, look inside yourself, and to label your deepest feelings about what is happening now. Tanya? Yes, I can. I can answer this question. Well, the deepest feelings I have now is probably that the memorial is not an organization. It's about values. It's about people who share these values. And memorial exists and will keep existing as it is, as long as these people exist. It's not about legal entities. It's about persons. This is the most important thing. I keep being asked these days that whether I believe that all this story can end positively, that we could win. And I keep answering, it doesn't matter whether I believe or do not believe it. What matters is what I have to do. And I have to do all that I can, all that depends on me for this process to have a good ending. I'll put it short. Shame. Deepest shame. And my second feeling is that this shouldn't be happening. I believe I've said everything about my feelings. If you expect me to say something about... well, you know, I was walking to memorial from an interrogation with the prosecutor's office in an unrelated case, and kept meditating what I should say, what I shouldn't say, and then I come here, and I'm told that a big hammer has been thrown into our window, and now it's there. We've been waiting for it for a long time, and now it's happening. But there is no panic. In a way, it's even easier than waiting for it to happen. And I think it's our shared feeling. No panic on board. And another different thing, Ilya Novikov and Henry Resing both work for pro bono, for free. Thank you for this question. It is always a very important question for a memorial member. It has always been. Both for people who have been around since very long time, and for the newcomers, because feelings, emotions underlie our entire work. I've been asked many times why 34 years ago Soviet people took to the street, people who had their own work to do, their own business to do, why did they take to the street to collect those signatures? I answer, I was ashamed. I felt terrible shame that I, a successful Soviet girl, had such a beautiful life, being a student and graduating from nice institutions. How come that I never learned about all those terrible things that happened in our history? Why was it only after reading an article in a newspaper that I learned about it? It's the same feeling when I was in Mauthausen in the concentration camp museum. They have a model of that concentration camp there, and beside it there are village houses around this camp. And when you look at these houses, you realize that people who lived in these houses did see the chimney of the crematorium. He couldn't but see this chimney and the color of the smoke coming out of this chimney. So he can tell us that he is just an ordinary farmer, an ordinary peasant, who just did not know about this injustice. No, it's a shame. I felt the shame for these people, and I wanted to do something. So it's more or less the same now. I'm pretty sure that although we, Memorial, have a different view of many things, yes, we are independent, yes, we are autonomous, but we are productive, we are constructive, we do good things. And it's a shame that the authority to which I pay my taxes honestly, and I keep persuading others, keep saying that we should do this. We should get out of the illegal field. In a not quite legal state, we as representatives of Memorial should keep to the law. And I feel shame that people who work for the money I pay them behave illegally. The ZDF German television, Lev Prokhorov. A colleague of mine who spoke before asked you why you didn't call the name of Putin. There is another name which is important for Russia's internal politics. They left you untouched for 10 years, and Alexei Navalny's staffs have been recognized as extremist organizations recently, and Alexei himself is recognized as a political prisoner. So is it a coincidence that in the year when Navalny was attacked, Memorial was attacked as well? First, during all these years, we felt increasing pressure. We were squeezed to death, so to say. Second, you can call certain names, of course. Yes, we did regard both Alexei Navalny and his brother as political prisoners. We register many other people who have been prosecuted in this case as political prisoners. But this is a very narrow view. I think that we have now received a reward for the totality of our achievements. They love us, in quotation marks, for all we do, for our vision, for our worldview on history, for upholding the memory of our past. And I'm not sure what our dear state loves us more for. I would like to add that if you look at the situation as a whole concerning the civic society situation in general in Russia, not only in regard the mineral. If you look at the media regarded as foreign agents, as a weekly replenishment of these registers with people being added to them, you see that Memorial is just a link of a long chain. So, yes, in a way you can relate it chronologically to the things that happened this winter after Navalny returned to Russia. But there is no reason to say that this was the only reason. During all the years, the 10 years, we see the narrowing of the field in which we can operate, the narrowing of media freedom, and so on and so on. So what is happening now is just another step of a big step, but just one of many steps. Hello. Telegram, we can explain, John Ulyanova. Do you share the version that the law enforcement agencies consider themselves to be heirs to the old People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, that they were offended by Yuri Dmitriev's activity? Excuse me, I think it's a very narrow and simplifying view. This is not the task. The authorities' task is to control, to govern. And then a question arises, how do the authorities execute the control? That's why they make certain agencies stronger, Sometimes those are even agencies you would never think that they would join the law enforcement agency. Like, for example, the Agency for Consumer Rights Control, or a Financial Monitoring Agency, or the Ministry of Justice. Even sanitary control agencies belong now to the law enforcement agencies. I think this is not the link, not the relation between the two cases. The matter is that the task is to control and to govern, and all that don't toe the line, all those who stay out of control experience increasing pressure. I remember well in 2003 when the Civic Forum was created and other things, some public officials said, how nice would it be to have a Ministry of Civic Society? Yes, a Ministry of Civic Society. High-ranking officials who at that time were helping me and Arseny Roginsky said, you are such an important figure, you could have such a ministry. And what they then proceeded to say is quite hilarious. You can give an order to your memorial organizations to do certain things you would like them to do. And Arseny Roginsky laughed so much. Just imagine me, Alexander, Tatiana Ivanovna in Perm can give an order to anyone. The civic society functions differently. You cannot make it to the line. But slowly but surely, this operation field of ours is being narrowed. Hello, Mikhail Shevelov, Dosh TV channel. Apart from Lyudmila Ilitskaya, who couldn't attend this meeting, another person is absent, Vladimir Lukin, senator and former commissioner for human rights. I would like to know the reason he is absent. You understand that this press conference was prepared very hastily, and we reported some prospect speakers who expressed their support to us. We hope that he would attend. We know that Vladimir Lukin and Natalia Solzhenitsyn signed a very, very bright letter to our support. And we hoped that Natalia Solzhenitsyn would also attend our press conference. So certain persons just could not come. Lyudmila Ilitskaya has got stuck in a traffic jam on her way to us. So she couldn't get out of a traffic jam. That's why she's absent. But I would like to express my gratitude to all those who support us. And this support is not about attending press conference alone. Support can be expressed by coming to a court hearing and speaking before the court. And yes, I am also grateful to people whom I enumerated. Please believe me, that was not bad will or treason or something that they didn't come. Not everybody and not always does things we know the reasons for. Sometimes people who honestly and self-sacrificially protect and support us get unjust criticism. So I would hate this situation to be used in this way. I talked to a lady yesterday who attended an international conference together with me, and he said, "Lena, you are not the person I am telling you. I am telling this. I've been collecting signatures for a letter of support, and I keep getting messages and letters of support with people asking me why I am not speaking in favor of memorial, in support of memorial, but." I said, you would never do this. So people who do this are not like you. People who want to harm you do such things. If they demand from me that I protect you, that I speak in your support, should I do this? No. Let's ignore all the cases when somebody, for some reason, could not support it publicly. People do support us in private, and we are very grateful to all who, in whatever form, support us. Sometimes we are not even aware of their support, and that's it. I would draw your attention to a great amount of people in Russia and abroad who would love to be present here tonight, but for many various reasons are unable to attend. The recent Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dmitry Muratov would love to be here, but he is absent now because he's on a foreign trip. Kenneth Ross would love to be here today. They recorded videos to support us, and we have plenty of videos. We don't even have the capacity to post all of them on our website. We keep working for another 10 minutes because we've started later, so we have time for a couple more questions.
Hello, dear colleagues. Yaroslav Kazulin with Kafkaski Uzel. Hello, I have actually a lot to say. Just one, please. Oh, too bad. Okay, so that's the most important question. What are the programs on North Caucasus inhabitants that Memorial has? What are these programs about? And will it be impossible to see them executed if the Human Rights Center is liquidated? Well, Yaroslav, we are busy. We're trying to make it so that that we keep doing what we're doing. But how we do it? Well, don't look at the chef's work. Just look at the dish we make. We'll like it. We're not planning to die right away. And or even live on camera. Well, God forbid. And can I ask one more question? No, sorry, we can't. We're about to close here. You can ask in person later. Okay, there were some more hands raised from the audience. Okay, that's it then. And thus, we are done with our press conference. And if any of the journalists have any more questions to ask, please, we're still here at our tables. At our table, you can ask your questions. Dear friends, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for finding the time and for exactly 2 hours you were here with us. And thank you so much. I hope to see you soon for a much more optimistic cause. I'd like to thank the interpreters. I'd like to thank our sound team. I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you.